We've all seen and heard the really poor quality videos from Al-Qaeda leaders that have been posted on the internet. But what we don't often see is those leaders fielding questions directly from reporters. Now that's changed because this week, Fred Pleitgen was the first Western TV journalist to interview the recently captured Baghdad commander of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. As Fred tells us, the Iraqi government made him available so that they could show the strides they've made in fighting terrorism.
They were some of the deadliest and most brazen attacks in Baghdad. Coordinated suicide bombings that hit several Iraqi ministries last year, killing and wounding hundreds. This man, Munaf al-Rawi, says he was the mastermind.
I wrote to my leaders, and they sent me about $120,000. We bought the trucks, and we got the suicide bombers from Mosul. We planned the operation, and we executed it.
The U.S. military and the Iraqi security apparatus say al-Rawi is a master of terror logistics. He admits he was Al-Qaeda and Iraq's top commander in Baghdad, until he was recently captured by luck at an Iraqi checkpoint like this one. The Iraqi government allowed CNN to interview him, but we were not allowed to say where the interview took place, and we were asked not to use one portion of the interview for fear he might be sending a secret message. Tell me the nuts and bolts of what you would do.
I would get orders always through written notes, transported by couriers. I would get the order to conduct, and I would transfer it to our military chief in Baghdad.
Did you yourself ever at some point think about becoming a suicide bomber yourself? Did you ever think about doing that yourself? You were sending people to do these bombings.
No. I didn't force anyone to do it. A suicide bomber will come from the border and get into Iraq to do it. I didn't force anyone to ride a car and conduct a suicide attack.
Al-Rawi says he joined Al-Qaeda in 2003 to fight the U.S. occupation. The irony, he says American forces at one point had him in custody. He says he was detained after the Battle of Fallujah in 2004, but released in 2007. A year later, Al-Rawi says he became a terrorist leader. At the height of its power, Al-Qaeda brutally controlled entire towns and parts of the country. But the vicious tactics turned many Iraqis against them.
The population has not embraced this ideology of Al-Qaeda, and that's significant because it really has hindered their ability to conduct operations here in this country.
U.S. and Iraqi security forces say information gleaned after al-Rawi's capture, including documents discovered in raided houses, allowed for the killing or capture of dozens more Al-Qaeda and Iraq leaders. Al-Rawi says even before his arrest, Al-Qaeda had been driven even further underground. Is the organization falling apart?
It is 80 to 100% harder to operate for Al-Qaeda these days. Before, we could prepare a car bomb anywhere. There was no opposition. Now, you can't do that. Even the place you prepare a car bomb will be discovered.
Al-Rawi says he felt sorry for civilians. He repeated that he didn't mean to kill civilians. But he insisted he still believes in what he calls a holy war against Americans and Al-Qaeda's enemy, the Iraqi government. A war Al-Qaeda and Iraq's new leadership says it is carrying forward. In the last 2 weeks, hundreds more have been killed and wounded in brutal attacks across the country, many civilians. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Baghdad.